William Donnely was from Valparaiso, Indiana. Don't know anything else about Donnely other than he was from Valparaiso. Bobby with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, Rai Lopez is opening. a6, Paul Morphy's defense, bishop a5, the Columbus variation. Knight f6, kingside castles, and we have a closed Spanish with bishop e7. Rook e1, pawn d6 is Yuri Averbach's variation. Yuri Averbach died last year at the age of 100. c3 here, b5 hitting the bishop, bishop b3. It can also come to c2 right away. Often it comes here first and then here, because we like to see if we can entice black to play knight a5, which he often does, followed by c5. And in this example, that's exactly what Donnely plays, and then bishop c2, and as predicted, c5. Now d4 hits the center, queen c7, similar to Chigorin's variation. Queen's knight to d2, kingside castle, knight f1. It's all book. Now, I always thought that d5 could be played here. It's not in the book, but I always liked the idea of closing it up here. I've always thought d5 might be a move there. But knight f1 is the book move. And knight c6 by Donnely, although c takes d4 would make my previous point for me. So knight c6, I kind of like c takes d4 because you didn't push to d5, and that makes my point after c takes d4. You know what, bishop g4 here. That's right, Valerie. All right, but, you know, it is normal to get this knight back here at some point. Knight e3, again, d5 is the move that interests me here, because what are you going to do, go right back from whence you came? That gets a star, and then knight g3. All right, so after knight c6, knight e3, I prefer to d5, and that is the move that the bot recommends as well. So here again, c takes can be played, but here again, black ignores it. C takes d4, in my mind, does remain equal. After c takes d4, e takes d4 would be played. Let's see what we get. Yep. And now e takes d4, and now knight takes d4, and now knight takes d4, and now queen takes d4. Yeah, all looks good. And then black would get his bishop out of the bed. And that gets a thumbs up. Back. Rook e8 is what Donnely played. So now knight d5 is played, hitting the queen. I would move my queen just out of danger. Donnely played knight takes the knight. That gets an inaccuracy. The bot does say move out of danger, but the bot prefers d8. I prefer b7. Let's see what I get. I get a thumbs up. Ha! The funny thing is when I play queen b7, the bot recommends Donnely's move, guys. And coming back to a conversation I have with Twizzler almost every week, the bot is fickle. We had this conversation at my dinner table only 4 or 5 hours ago, how the bot will tell you a move is wrong. Look how the bot called this an inaccuracy and said he should have played queen to d8. But I said I prefer queen b7. And the bot says, no, the best move is knight takes knight. But it just called that an inaccuracy a minute ago. And so coming back to Valerie, don't sweat the inaccuracies. And here's exactly proof why. Fickle bot. So knight takes d5, pawn takes d5. Where's he going to go? All bad choices. Knight a5, pawn takes e5, pawn takes e5, knight takes e5. Knight g5 being called for. Bishop d6, discovering a hit here. f4, Oh, he didn't play f4. He played bishop f4. Excuse me. Not pawn f4. Bishop f4. Double exclam from the annotator. What would it have given f4? A star. But bishop f4 gets the double exclam. Bishop b7. That gets the big red X in favor of pawn g6. I will point out that you don't want to play rook takes here. This would be a mistake because on bishop takes, and this bishop gets terminally pinned to the e8 square because this is undeveloped and this is cut off, which means, of course, I can play f4 and you cannot move your bishop. If you tried bishop to d6, I guess you could then block with your bishop. If you tried bishop d6 and I play rook e8, that does not seem very pleasing, especially since I can just hit your queen now. Yeah, that is really ugly. Why not bishop takes e5 instead of rook takes e5? You want bishop takes e5? Yeah, that's no good because you get forked with queen h5. Note that that's a super attack here and a fork here. Okay. Anyway, bishop f4 gets the double exclam. Bishop b7 was played. Queen to d3. Battery attacking here. The bot preferring bishop g3. g6, blunting the b1 h7 diagonal. Now queen g3. Battery supporting all of this. You got that. This is interesting. So this actually aims for knight takes g6 here. That's a big threat, which discovers this attack and this attack. That would be quite a strong attack. So let me just illustrate. Let's do a nothing move here, right? Knight takes the pawn, right? Double exclam, ladles and jelly spoons. And of course, that clears this open. It threatens here. It threatens here. So if rook takes rook check, rook takes rook. If pawn takes knight here, queen takes pawn check. If bishop takes bishop, knight takes bishop check. Let's just put them all up here. Here we've got here, and then it's the same thing. It's just different. Here we've got here, and that's going to be over very quickly. You got this supported this way. He can't go that way. If queen g7, then I will trade rooks. Yeah, because I've got a super attack here, so I can take with check, and then I get 2 rooks for 1. It's just all over. If bishop takes the bishop, I take the bishop with a discovered check. I'm winning in many, many, many ways. So the point I'm trying to make is the threat of knight takes g6. You say, well, then don't move that pawn, leave it defending. Let's do a different nothing move. It's the same thing. It's just different because it's still a double exclam, ladles and jelly spoons. And the point is, it's still a discovered battery attack against this bishop, right? So, first of all, let's say you take my knight. Bada bing, bada boom, yeah? And I'm hitting your queen. So, it's the same thing. It's just different. It's exactly the same thing. It's just different. Anyway, Donnely playing none of those moves goes rook d8. He should play knight c4 and hope for knight takes knight. That would be worth a try. Knight takes knight would be the wrong move. If you play knight c4, I play knight d3. But the hope is, let's go back. The hope is on knight c4, black says, I hope you trade knights, and then I've got bishop takes bishop. And then all of a sudden, white is in trouble, isn't he? I play d6. No, because queen here. Yeah, it's just, you're in trouble here. It's trouble. But I don't take the knight. But it's worth a try is what I'm saying, ladles and jelly spoons. I just play knight d3. Ooh, exclamasaurus. And now on bishop takes, my knight is covering f4 as well. In fact, I don't want to take this with the queen because then queen takes, knight takes b2. My knight's a bit overworked, right? And that slightly favors black, basically equal. So instead, I take that with my knight. Boink. You say, doesn't he still have knight takes b2? He does. He does still have knight takes b2. But his knight is a bit out of play, and it only cost me a pawn. I can come up, start running my... Actually, this looks interesting. Any whoosies. Let's go all the way back. Rook a d8 was played. Well, Bobby does play knight d3 anyway here. I'd be tempted to make a sacrifice here anyway, but with the bishop rather than the knight. Knight d3, knight c4. Pawn b3 hits the knight. The bot, instead of pawn d3, the bot's recommending bishop takes bishop. That would compel knight takes bishop. Then on knight f4, rook takes rook, rook takes rook, probably. Let's see. Oh, it does not like that. It does not like my line. Anyway, b3 by Fischer. Bishop takes the bishop. And that gets a big question mark. The bot calling for rook takes the rook there. Queen takes the bishop, gets the big red X. Knight takes bishop is definitely interesting on knight takes bishop. Maybe knight b6 right here. You get a star. And if bishop e4 here, I get a star. And the point is, I'm potentially opening this up. I can't do that, though. Yeah, maybe queen d6 adds another attacker here, though. Then I'd have to play rook a d1 for another defender. It's a little complicated here. Doesn't like that. Too many mistakes by Coach Daniel. I did have a couple of double exclams, though, so... But queen takes is given the big red X. And queen takes, yeah, again... Rook takes rook first. Play rook takes rook first, and then trade queens. That makes more sense. And then put your knight on the safe square. Okay, knight d6. It's the same thing. The point is you're making your knight safe. Back, 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 back. Queen takes the queen. Rook takes the rook check. The bot, this is funny because I was just about to say, don't play knight takes queen, play rook takes rook first. I was about to say, do not play this, but the bot says that's the best move. Now let's see, that would compel rook takes rook, and then I keep saying knight b6, but the bot's been calling for knight d6. Yeah, same here. All right, well, rook takes rook was played. Rook takes rook, knight takes the queen. Now knight a3, which was totally unexpected from my perspective. Bishop d3, that basically keeps black busy. And what's he going to do with this knight? Knight's kind of out of play, isn't it? Everything is hot. c4 was his try. Pawn takes the pawn, creates a square. Bishop f1. G5 hits the knight. Bot calling for king f8. To me, lifting the rook here with some activity is more appropriate. Rook e5, super attacking this pawn. G5, though, not liked at all. Knight h5, threatening the fork. Now rook e5, but ironically, rook d8 is probably the more resistant way to go now. Well, let's see, what does it get for rook e5? It gets a question mark in rook d8, but now d6. And with the rook on d8, that would not have been available. King f8, knight f6, and look how the knight and the pawn are working together, for the time being at least. Now, this also prevents the rook from getting behind our passer, doesn't it? And I've got a threat of a fork here as well, don't I? Wow, that's quite a move. Knight f6 has quite a large number of jobs that it accomplished. Donnely played rook e6 and then resigned before Bobby could make his move. I'm going to assume he resigned in view of just the simple rook d1, getting my rook behind my passed pawn. Double exclam! Yes! He would have to give up his bishop for the pawn. Wow, the bot says rook e8. I thought bishop c6 and then something like this. But on rook e8, I just take the rook, right? Just take it. I can give check. And please come here, and then I'll skewer your king and your bishop. So you'd have to come here. And then I can just lift my rook either here or up here. You know, there's a lot of things I can do. Let's say rook e5. Well, I mean, either or. Let's see what we get for each. I get a star. And what do I get for rook e7? I get a check mark. Point is, the game is well in my pocket.